Can you hear me? Oh, maybe you're
Hello,
muted.
mate.
You're not muted. How you doing?
I feel muted. I feel muted, actually. I've
How's
just
things?
sat down. I haven't seen a chart since Thursday. Basically, I did yesterday's show
Yeah,
with a little bit of a brief look at the charts, but I really haven't. And to be perfectly honest, I've got no intention of trading today. It's a public holiday or a bank
yeah,
holiday in both Britain and US, so
yeah, yeah. Not a lot is going on, mate. There's a bit of movement in gold I've seen, and nothing too negative really kind of happened at the end of last week. So I don't think we're going to get. I mean, like you, I don't think we're going to get too much movement in one direction or the other. But if anything, might see a bit of dollar strength. I've got the futures open. S&P futures are drifting around 1 pip every hour. um,
Yeah, I
and
just don't trade when there's a public holiday in both places or bank
yeah,
holiday in both places. It's a no-go zone for me.
yeah, understandable. And you're right, really, because there's not really a lot to do. Not really much
Okay,
to
well,
do.
that's the show, folks, and thanks for joining us. Do you want to show us what you're looking at? I'm not even sure I'm going to take a pound trade today.
Oh
Maybe.
yeah, do you know what? It's interesting actually. Well, I did look at the pound. I think with some potential dollar strength, the pound might move a little bit, but yeah, you're probably not going to get enough in the way of volatility. But yeah, let me show you what I am looking
Yes,
at,
mate.
because there are a few things that I think are still of interest here. Not
All right, I'll
necessarily
have
to
a sniff
trade, but
around some charts whilst you're doing that, just to
yeah, no,
familiarise
no
me.
problem. It's not these aren't trading opportunities, but what they are is just a bit of a snapshot into what the sentiment currently is, and how it ended last week, and what we might be looking at.
Hey, we did
Um,
okay last week. The last two trades were both winners. That one that Shukri gave us, the dollar CAD, that went very well.
oh, brilliant.
And the Kiwi, actually, I've closed the Kiwi small. You guys will have to remind me on what happened there. I know we got TP1. I don't know what happened after that. I closed everything because I've changed from IFS over to Fusion. So I closed everything on my IFS account. And I
Oh,
have nothing open at the moment.
that's a point. I was going to do this on IFS instead. So let me just
Hi,
do
Squee. Hi,
that.
Lewis.
You know what? I'm a screen down, mate. I've got don't know. I moved my system from one room to another, and when I got back to it, I had one of my monitors down. So I'm one monitor down at the minute,
You're
which is
handicapped.
oh mate, it's a bit annoying because I
Yeah,
I
same,
get
Lewis.
I get used to so I need let me just do this the right way around. Then so I need 2 3. Yeah, I need to look at certain things, especially when there's the show on. It's much better to have more monitors so I can show everybody one and then have a look through various other things on the other three. Oh, there we go. Okay, so if I bring up Fusion, that's what we want to look at, isn't it? There we go. All right. Fusion is there. If you could pass me the screen as well, mate, that'd be great.
Okay, I'm not sharing, so I don't know how I can do that. I can't.
You're not sharing. You need to maybe make me a co-host or something.
Okay, let me try that.
No,
yeah. Why does it do that? I mean, what a blinking stupid thing. There
I
we go.
know it is, isn't it? Now the only thing with this is I don't have my particular templates on it, but let's see what we can check anyway. I might just change one thing there. Just a blank. Okay. Yeah, it's a different setup. I should have got really this done beforehand. You've just given me the screen, have you?
I've tried to.
Okay, no, I got it. I got it.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're not really kind of looking at too much today, but what I thought was quite significant was when we look at how the markets closed really on, let's just go to a 4 hour. Yeah, how the markets closed I thought was quite important. I'm just going to change this up a little bit because bar down. Bar down could do with being. Never tried. Never tried white as a bit of a border. What's that look like?
Sort of stands out, doesn't it?
Does it stand out? Okay, all right, we'll leave it like that then.
Looks like a candy pop to me.
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it. I like my wicks and
Yes,
my.
it's a little bit more stark, isn't it?
It
Your
is.
way.
Yeah, it is. Let me do this then instead. It might be a bit. It might be a little bit dull. I don't know. Is that easy? And it's still easy enough to see.
It is for me. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll tell you what it is actually. Sorry to mess around with this, guys, during this. So
While you're doing that, I'll answer a few questions, mate.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi everyone. Faye, pound Swissy not triggered from Friday, have closed it. Yep, absolutely. Alan, hi. Lewis, I've answered your questions. Roy can talk a bit about HSI today, please. I can't, but Ash might be able to.
HSI?
Yeah.
What's HSI?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's RSI.
Oh, RSI. Okay.
I think. Is that right, Roy? What happens to the market when US market is on holiday as well? Later, if time permits, thank you. I can give you the answer to that for me, as I already did. I have no intention of trading today. And what could happen to the market is basically anything, as always. But generally, you'll find that because there's a distinct lack of volume, because there are no traders sitting at their desk, no institutional traders sitting at their desk in both London and New York today, well, there goes like more than half of the market gone in one fell swoop. So can you rely on what the other half of the market, or less than half of the market, is going to produce in terms of accurate technical moves? The answer for me answer to that for me is a definite no. I can't trust that. So for that reason, I just don't trade on days like this. And in fact, I wouldn't be here only that you guys, I knew you guys would be here. So we've got to turn up and say, well, hi guys. So that's my answer to that one.
Yeah, and mine would be the same.
The Dollar CAD King, and he's on Memorial holiday as well. And Hang Seng Index, there you go. There is an HSI.
Oh, okay. Yes, let's have a look at that. Yeah, I have been looking at the Hang Seng actually. Yeah, it's well worth looking at. You know, if we're kind of not able to trade, well, actually, for two reasons. If we're not able to trade the US and the UK, that's one aspect of it. But the other thing is that it gives us a pretty decent view of what might be happening during the day. So, firstly, let's just get to the market from last week, because it was quite interesting last week. I mean, we had a fairly big dive to the downside.
Sorry, mate. Before you go, we are not trading the pound US dollar breakout trade today. Sorry for those of you who are wondering that one. Sorry, mate.
Yes, no problem. So we had a big dive to the downside. This is a 4-hour chart on the S&P. So we had a big dive to the downside, and then managed to hold this level and sprung all the way back up again. Now, if we're looking at this on a daily, you can see that it's slightly different in some respects, because that move to the downside didn't look like a test. It didn't look like a double bottom. It just looked like a little bit of a bounce, and a continuation of upside. So when we're looking at certain levels here, and we extrapolate this little trend line out here, or we could maybe move it a little bit higher. Probably better to be higher, actually, because that gives us a break here, the retest here, and then the next day, Friday last week, just to kind of make sure that was a hold. So the S&P is in an uptrend. You know, if we're looking at this on a daily chart, on a minor time frame, we call it, then this is in an uptrend. So the situation between the US and China, which is really what drove it down on initially on Thursday and into a little bit of Friday, didn't really seem to bother the market. The market swept that aside quite happily, but there is still issues out there. So if you're looking at the Hang Seng, now why haven't I got the Hang Seng? Let's make sure I've got everything up here. I don't have the Hang Seng on Fusion. What I do have is the Hong Kong 50, which I think this one's quite an interesting one, because if you are looking across the board at different things, now this is really just about mindset, and it's a little bit to do with what you can do when you have a view on the world, because really all you're doing as a trader is taking a view on the world and taking a trade and expressing that view on the world, expressing that view on the world by taking a trade. Now, we know that there was tension between China and Hong Kong, and look at the results. So where we see, oh, that's no good. There we go. Where we see the S&P still managing to hold, what we don't see is the Hong Kong 50 managing to hold. So where there was tension between Hong Kong and China, Hong Kong's market really did suffer, and it's continued to suffer. So if you're looking for an opportunity to sell an indice, this, you wouldn't go too far wrong looking at this one. So look at the HK50. Now, I don't have the HSI on this broker, unfortunately. Let me just see if I've got it on the other one. Where is it? Oh, I don't actually. Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, I do have it on the other one as well. I do have it on the other one. Similar actually. When you're looking at the Hang Seng, then it's very it looks quite similar to this this Hong Kong 50. So if you're looking for global indices to move in the same direction, then they won't always. But what might happen is, just like a currency will move because of something specific to the region, this has moved because of something specific to the region. So Asian stocks right now just aren't doing as well as their US counterparts. I'm just going to have a quick look at the Nikkei here as well, just to see whether that's happening over in Japan. Yeah, look at, the Japanese stocks have reacted very similar to the US. So what we're really seeing is a regional story, and a regional story play out. This is the Aussie. So the Aussie 200 is moving to the upside. This is the Hang Seng. This is the Hang Seng. CN50 is the Hang Seng. I'm pretty sure that's right. So you can see that the Hang Seng has moved to the downside. HSI, so you said it was HSI. Let me just double check that is the right one. Yes, and you're right, Crystal. So that the protests in Hong Kong can actually drive us to a short in that side, of the world. And the thing is, if there is a blow up between the US and China, or is a blow up of coronavirus or whatever else, the Hang Seng is already weak. So with that in mind, then you would probably do a lot worse than looking for that for some further moves to the downside. Hang Seng price. Let me just get the price, because if we know what the overall price is, it's 22,800. Yeah, so this no, that's not the Hang Seng then. This is the Hang Seng. The HK50 is the Hang Seng. Sorry, my mistake. So this is the Hang Seng HK50. Yes, that's what you're going to bring. The China 50 must be. I'm not sure what other indices out there actually. I don't trade these very often, but here we go. It tells you here. Oh no, China A50 index, and that's the Hong Kong index. So we are looking at weakness anyway. We are looking at weakness in the Hang Seng, and I would have thought that that would probably continue while those protests are going on. And you can probably see You could probably track back. I mean, I wish I knew what the dates were for those protests that happened last year, because we would probably start to see it expressed in the charts. So this is tradable in a lot of ways. The Hang Seng is a lot more tradable if you're looking for downside. Now, does it have much room? It's got a bit more room, isn't it? Hasn't really tested those areas, or has it? No, it hasn't really tested those areas. Got a little bit of room to come down. So 19, maybe down to 19,000 on the Hang Seng, potentially on the HK50 potentially. And if you're looking for general weakness in the market, I don't think you do much worse than go here. Now, if we look at the back to what's been happening in a market that would be its complete opposite, and you could almost do a hedge on something like this where you go long short. So you go short Hang Seng but long on the Nasdaq, and what that would do, and look at the Nasdaq, it's just out of just about any other stock exchange that we have available to us. This thing has just been a stat. Oh, look at that, mate. I mean, all the way up, all the way down, all the way up. It's just a crazy, crazy pattern with the Nasdaq.
Yes, amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Do you know, I find this quite interesting as well, because really with the Nasdaq, really interesting reports on Bloomberg over the weekend about how the Dow Jones Industrials are just a bit of a dinosaur. Because of the way it's structured, and the way it's structured is to give to have companies that are just really good, solid companies. You know, they've got to have a certain amount of a certain criteria to get on the Dow, and the Nasdaq will have too. However, the criteria is very, very different. So the growth in the Nasdaq is
that based on market cap, I assume?
No, it's not. Not for the Dow. Not for the Dow. No, which is quite interesting. Okay. Yeah. So certain things with the Dow. I mean, to a degree, I suppose it is, because there are certain things with the Nasdaq, with the Dow, that won't allow. So market cap will come into play to a degree, because they can't allow one stock to dominate the Dow. So if their market cap is too big, they can't get on.
Sure.
So it's quite interesting, but the Nasdaq, yes, it is. The Nasdaq is tech stocks, LT. You're absolutely right. And the interesting thing is, if we think about the kind of society and world that we now live in, it's much more tech based. So the Nasdaq is almost a much better reflection of where we are today than the Dow is. You know, when you look at some of those stocks in the Dow, the likes of Boeing, then it's nowhere near as essential to everyday life as Google or Amazon or Facebook. You know, so really the Nasdaq is
how bizarre is that?
I know, yeah, I know. So times really have changed, and when we think about the Dow, I think the Dow was it 1929? I think the Dow. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was sometime around there. You know, it's sometime around the sort of the turn of the last century, or maybe just before. And I'm pretty sure it was the turn of the last century, because Dow himself was around at that particular time. Now I can't remember if the index was around before and then they named it after him later, or whether it was him. It was him. He kind of put everything together, because it was his idea that Dow Jones theory. And this is the thing about the Dow theory. Dow theory is, or part of Dow theory is, that for a stock market to genuinely be in a bull run, all aspects or all the sectors of the Dow Jones at the time had to be rising. So you couldn't have transportations going up and energy going down. You know, the energy and the transportations would have to both go up. And the reason for that is that there's a knock-on effect between a transportation firm and an energy firm. So if a transportation company needs to move its vehicles, then it's got to go and get energy, which means that those shares should also be increasing. So when they don't, then you don't have a strong move that you can rely on. So the way that Dow would play it is that he would make sure that all aspects of the supply chain, if you like, were rising, and then you could trade it to the upside. And then when they weren't, then it would show him that there would be some kind of glitch. And if you think about that, then that really works. That really sort of like, you can really break that down to the sectors, if you like, if you were trying to trade a stock. So if you're trying to trade a stock, if you were interested in a stock in let's say gold as an example, then you'd need to know that the supply chain was equal or above the demand. Sorry, the demand was equal or above the supply chain, and then you can track back, and it means that you can pick a stock up in the supply chain if it hasn't quite got there yet, with the speculation that it's going to start to follow, or you look at it and say something's not quite right, depending on where they sit in the supply chain. Where if you have something in the middle, if you've got like really good, because really there's kind of four aspects to a supply chain, and if you have really good production going on and really good demand going on at the end, but there is a problem in the handling of it in the middle, because the miners won't just go and sell direct to market. They need people in the middle to kind of make their product into something, and then you get the next people that basically take that product and then sell it on to the retailers. So the retailers are always at the end of the supply chain. So if the retailers are doing well and the producers are doing well, but the people in the middle aren't doing well, then that would be a big flag, to suggest that there would be a problem somewhere along the line for that particular product or that particular product line. So you kind of look at
interestingly, we as producers and the end supply chain, being the purchaser, are trying to eliminate everything that happens in the middle for obvious reasons.
Oh no, tell me, what are those reasons?
Cheaper.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're trying to bypass them.
Of course. I mean, that's the whole ethos of my life, I think. Everything I've tried to produce, I've tried to take to market. And everything I've tried to purchase from the supplier.
Yes.
Because, and no offense to anybody who's in that sector, but a lot of them are simply superfluous to my needs at the end of the day. And they're creating money where money doesn't really need to be created.
Yes.
Or value add. There's no value add. It's just the same product going from Peter to Paul, but we've introduced Mary, Josephine, and Christopher in the middle there somewhere. They're each getting a little bit of the pie. What, WTF? That doesn't need to happen. Yeah. And I think you'll find, let's talk about the NASDAQ, as technology improves, that all of these people in the middle will become superfluous. We've got now we've got one in the middle, right? It's known as Amazon, basically. So you've got a supplier, Amazon, and an end user. All we need to do is get rid of Amazon now, and okay.
Yeah, I mean, I find Amazon quite an interesting one. Just before we get to that, let's before we come back to this, let's just address
Sorry, I got you completely off the track.
No, you didn't, mate. You didn't actually. I'd like to continue this conversation because Amazon I find quite interesting, because of the fact that they've almost become a broker rather than anything else, haven't they? They've almost become, because you've still got other companies that use Amazon as the retailer, if you like.
Yes, and they've got all sorts of rules and regulations and codes and to hide you from the retailer himself.
Do you know what? Amazon, I see so many adverts now to become an Amazon retailer, and how people are making, vast sums of money as an Amazon. Yeah, I mean, it's
Amazon's
absolutely.
making money.
Yeah, it's absolutely, but it's you know, the adverts that are out there, it's amazing really, because obviously we're in this industry, and I know that there's a lot of charlatans in this industry, and you know, people sell the dream, you know, to all everybody listening
Yes.
out there now. You know, you've been sold the dream at some point along the line. Now, I hope that that we've made it quite clear at Actions to Wealth that there is no magic money tree, and you've got to work at it. You know, yes, you can make good money in the market. You can make a lot of money in the market, but you've got to make sure that you put the hours in. You know, you can't just expect to sit down and find a pattern and trade that for the rest of your life with no work around it. You know, you have to kind of like make sure that you expand your knowledge, and I think that we
keep expanding it. You've got to keep
and
up
keep
with it.
expanding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's about consistency, and that's what we've always said. You know, that's one of our mantras, is that it's about consistency, not about finding the silver bullet and you're off to the races and gone. But the amount of people that are effectively selling it, you know, the way that things are packaged up and discussed is just it's astonishing, and you know, in every single aspect of anything that's online, you know, Amazon sellers now are kind of doing it, and the adverts that I'm
Yep.
seeing, and they're really badly put together as well. And if people can't see holes in it, then I think they probably are quite desperate to try and make money so badly that they will believe anything that they see online, and it's very difficult to find, you know, genuine people that are
Extremely difficult. Yes.
you know, really making money, you know, really making money and really understand what's going on. And now back to understanding what's going on. So, Sweet, can we take a short? I guess you meant a lower high than a higher low. So now let me ask you, Sweet, because and I want to ask you this just to kind of get you to answer the question yourself effectively. What do we look for? In fact, there are two things that either hold up a market or reject a market. What are the two things? What are the two areas that we look for to reject and to hold up a market? And that should be the first point of call before we look for any setup, before we look for any lower high, higher low, anything like that. What are the two areas that we look for? One of two. If we're going long, it's one area. If we're going short, it's another area. Let's get to that first. In fact, all of you can answer that. Any of you can answer that. What are we looking for when we open up our charts? What are we looking for? Specific areas on the chart. And I'll leave that open. And I'm not asking any of you guys to catch you out or. Yeah, Brian. Yeah, that's good. Not volume cyclicity. No. Brian's kind of right. Not quite. Not yes. Paul's on it. Yes. Is that Mathakumura? Mathakumaran? My. Yeah, perfect, Brian. Exactly. Yes, yeah. So Sweet, not necessarily. Yes, yeah. That's specific. So the pivot, break, and bounce is quite specific. But yeah, it's basically support and resistance. That's what we're looking for. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself when you look at this chart is: if I am trading short, yeah, trend lines, horizontal levels. First and foremost, forget pivots for right now. Pivots are a very useful tool.
Put them on hold. Don't forget them. Sorry.
Yes, put them on hold. Yes, but really with pivot, yeah, don't forget them. Sorry, yeah, put them on hold. And the reason that you should put pivots on hold for right now is, and I don't know if you agree with this, Jeff, but for me, pivots are a great area for confluence. They are not an area to start from.
It depends on what you're trying to achieve, Ash, I think. And for me, if I'm trying to achieve a 30 pip run on a 30-minute chart, then the pivots are absolutely sacrosanct for me. But if I'm trying to achieve, you know, a 9-to-1 trade on a reversal, then they're not that important at all.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, pivots are obviously something that we use every day. But the key thing is, do we have, now when you're looking at a short, can you see anywhere here where there could be some support coming pretty soon. What would we need to, are there any levels here that you can see where there is support coming pretty soon? And look at your chart. Look at your euro pound. We're on the 4 hour, and put in the time and date. I'm looking at 2 specific points on this chart. Put in the time and date where there could be potentially a start of an area that that would provide some support. Meaning, what do we need to get through first before we take this trade?
So I know this also relates to your question on Euro Aussie. If you could pay particular attention to your Euro Aussie chart whilst Ash is taking you through this, I think it'd be good for you.
Now, I'm specifically talking about. In fact, there's 2 here. There's there is a trend line here, and there is a horizontal line of support on this chart that we need to break through before we can say this is a short. Now, I want to know what price the horizontal level is and what date the trend line starts from. You don't have to give me the second one, actually, but tell me what date the trend line starts from. So, okay, so let's see the support. So 0.8907. Let's have a look. 0.8907. Perfect. All right, that's number 1, right? So that's an issue. So yes, now there's one. So 18th of May. Let's have a look. Yes, you're right on the money. So this is where the trend line starts. Look at it. We've got a touch here and touch here. Now, we don't know whether this is going to hold up, but this is a red flag. That is a huge flag, red flag. So what we've got here is a potential lower high and a potential for a head and shoulders pattern to start forming. So we got this. Oh gosh, can I do that? Yes, I can. We got this going on. There's our head, and this is potentially a left shoulder, right? So if we are going to take the left shoulder, we're going to have to. If we're going to trade the left shoulder, we're going to have to get it up here to start with. I don't know. We can discuss where that left shoulder might run to in a minute.
Right shoulder, mate.
Sorry, the right shoulder. I always say that. There is a right shoulder here, and we can start to make an assumption of where that right shoulder will be in a second, and where there could be a potential tradable opportunity. But the point really here is that we can only aim for this. That's the area we can start to aim for, and then this area, and then if we get through there, then we can start to look at this as a genuine reversal, and who knows where it goes from there. There's obviously going to be a line here and here, and that's quite an interesting level as well to a degree. Is it? Not really. It's a bit messy at the minute, but we'll have to do some more work on that on a longer term time frame. So really, the answer to your question should be. Is there, and this is the answer to every question before any trade, is there an area that it could potentially bounce from to destroy my trade? Now, the second question is, if there is that, am I actually looking for a short, or should I really be looking for a long? And if we look at this chart here, what we've got is this. This is the cycle. Now we discussed the cycle. This is a higher low. Now I don't know whether maybe you got your words mixed up earlier on, and when you were saying going short, maybe you meant going long. I don't know. But if you were talking about, is this a higher low that we can trade from? Yes, it is. No doubt. There's a higher low there. So we are actually trending to the upside. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that we would necessarily trade from here. Now we need to do the next thing. There's a higher low here. Can we trade long? Let's have a look if we can trade long. Now, the next thing we need to ask ourselves in a long trade is the same question that we just asked ourselves in a short trade. What's in the way? Are there any support and resistance levels here that could destroy this? Now, I should have. Let's bring these on here. Now, these are our pivots. I don't like that much. No, I like my pivots a certain color. Which I'm sure everybody does, but
What's your favourite colour on your pivots, mate? Come on, show.
Oh well, do you know, I always go red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. It's the Union Jack. Easy for me to remember. Red is monthly. White is the weekly, and then daily is my blue. So yeah. Do you know what? I'm quite particular about colours on the chart. And it's one of the reasons I don't use that many moving averages, because I don't like to see like loads of filth everywhere. You know, I like to see quite clean sort of price action. But it's well worth having pivots on there. And actually, I'm going to save this template.
Go, Greg.
So we'll call this clean with pivots. Now, I'm sorry I'm doing this in front of you guys, but my Fusion account I was really just using to trigger trades. I've been analyzing on a different account, but I think it's good that we analyze together. And Lewis brought it up the other day. I'm constantly looking at futures, and you guys can't trade those, so I'm going to start looking at the UK 100, and Fusion's a really good broker for us to do that, because they got really good spreads and stuff. So now the question is there anything in the way? And you can see here, yes, there is. You know, this is right in the eye line here. Let me just do one thing here. One thing, sorry. I just want a clean one as well. Okay, so now let's bring those pivots back. Now this is I need a clean chart, because if I put a daily chart on with pivots, it gets really messy. So now let's have a look. So we're in an uptrend as well on the daily, looking good, right? So everything's looking fine so far. Now I'm just going to bring back these pivots again, and we're going to have a look on the hourly here. Now, when we look at this on the hourly, now we know that the pivots are a problem here. Now, the other thing I want to know is there a trend line along here that's also going to provide a problem? Well, that one's no good. In actual fact, look at that. So that the case for the long is actually just grown quite significantly. It does mean that this is the area to go long until, you know, we haven't really got very far to go, but there is a long on this one. Now the stop might be under the trend line there, but there is a long right up until the pivots there. Don't know which one, but the next thing I want to do is draw up another trend line here. And that's going to start. Now look at that, how that's caged. So what this is telling me is two things. The first thing it's telling me is that I could go down another time frame and see if I've got a trade that would get me up to the pivots, get me a long up to the pivots. That's the one thing I can do. But the second thing I can do, which would be a lot safer, would be see if this is actually a swing trade. And if it's a swing trade, what I need to see is price actually close up here and take the pivots out, take the trend line out, and then if it comes back and it's able to hold and give me some sort of whole bar which gets us up back above the pivot again, probably, then we've got the trade. So it's like we're looking for almost it's not necessarily 3 bars, but there will be a kind of three movement action here that would get me interested in a long. Otherwise, I don't have it. I want it to go above and break and close above. I want it to come back and test, and then the next bar I want it to get back and at least close on the daily pivot. At the very, very minimum, but I want it to have tested this area first. Then I've got my long to the upside. Otherwise, I don't. Now, I definitely don't have a short. LT, the trend line can start earlier. Let's have a look at that now. Timbrook Taylor. What's that about with the goodie? Why are we talking about the goodies?
With Rule Britannia and the flag and all the rest.
Oh, okay.
your patriotism, basically.
Oh, do you know, I'm not patriotic really at all. It's just I just I
Oh, so
just
it's the American flag you were thinking of, was it?
no, it was the Union Jack. It's more the fact that I find it easier to remember. You know, it's red, white, and blue. It's just that, you know, that those colours have been ingrained in me. So every time I come to set up anything with colours, and I do the same with fibs. You know, my monthly fib is on a red, my weekly's white, and and that's how it all started actually. Before I was using pivots, I was using fibs, so it all started with red, white, and blues, because it's just easier to remember. So yes, it is the ABC. Yeah, exactly, Signer. You got it, you got it. So so that means we can look for the long, but not until we take those out. So the pivots have become, and when I was saying, you know, just park them for a little while, that's what I was talking about. You know, that they become for me something that I need to see after I've done all my lines, that draw my horizontal levels. And the reason that I'm interested in trend lines first and horizontal lines is because the trend line tells me the direction of travel for one. I mean, you know, if something's going to bounce off a trend line, then it's got to be a pretty good trend, and it's got to be a good trend line. Trend lines are quite weak areas in many respects, but they can become very, very strong. So a bit of practice with trend lines, and you'll start to get them. Because the problem with trend lines is that you can draw them all over the place, and one of them will work out, and you'll say, see, they do work. Well, of course they do if you find the right area, but many of them don't. So if you rely on those places to take trades and they don't have any confluence, then they're useless, in my opinion. So a trend line needs to have confluence. It's probably the only thing that does, more than anything else, need to have confluence. But if you get confluence, or a trend line becomes an area that you add to give you confluence, like we have here, the pivots are a great area to go short. We have a trend line as well. Great. So we've got confluence. The likelihood really that's going to happen today is more likely to be this. I would suggest we're probably going to go up, come down, go up, come down, go up, come down. And at some point, we're going to break out there, or we're going to break out there. And if we break out here, then we're going to go like that probably until we break to the downside, or we break to the upside. So we don't know whether the timing is going to be right. But this trend line looks to me like it's a pretty good one, but purely because of the confluence. But the lower it gets beyond these pivots, the strength of it will probably start to diminish a little bit. So that was the first thing. Now there was one other thing. Oh yeah, so there was who was saying that there might be another one. LT was saying there might be another trend line. Let's have a look. I don't see one earlier than the 18th. I don't see one earlier than the 18th. LT. Okay. So actually, Chloe was looking for this long, right?
Oh, she would be for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So if Chloe's looking for this long, then I would completely concur with Chloe's analysis. You know, Chloe's one of the best analysts that we have. You know, she's very, very what's the word? Can't think of the exact
Pregnant?
word, but she's very, very what? Sorry.
Pregnant?
Very, she is very pregnant. Yeah. She's struggling right now, very sick.
Yeah, the poor bugger.
I know. She's very pregnant, but she's also she's very diligent. She's very, very diligent when it comes down to her currency analysis. So if Chloe says that we should be looking for a long, then I would probably bend a few rules just to find it, because she will know what she's talking about. But
I think, like everybody else, Chloe is looking for a long if she sees a certain set of parameters, and
yes.
one of those would be confluence, as always.
Yes, it would. And she's got her moving averages and the moving average bounces. And this is the thing. If Chloe's looking for a long because of a moving average bounce, and we've just done analysis without any of that, that means we've probably got another area of confluence. So really, what we should be looking for with the euro pound is a long and not a short. Now, that doesn't mean that it will go long. We've decided, you know, what we need to see to allow that long to take place, and it's just not yet. And what could happen is it could continue to turn around, so we might end up with a right shoulder scenario. And if we do end up with a right shoulder scenario, everything changes. And this is the thing about the market. You know, I went short with a FTSE 100 on Thursday, and we got a really good run out of it to the downside. Now, my first thinking is when I'm looking at a short is, can I add to it? You know, if it comes back, can I add to it? But as it happened, I ended up going long on Friday because you know, everything started to change. In actual fact, on Thursday, we were looking for the long. We were looking for the long, and I don't know if everybody remembers in the US show, but what I said was, if the market starts to break down, actually, we can look for the short, and that's exactly what happened. I don't know if anybody took that trade, but it was a great long short on Thursday, which you know, it's not one of those things that I necessarily need to show you, but I could show you the account, and it was actually, I took it on every account, so it's on this one as well. But I could show you the account. I ended up taking it short on Thursday because it did start to break down instead of breaking to the upside. So I was saying that the FTSE was strong, but the S&P and the Dow were looking quite weak, and this is back to all kind of all ships rise in a tide, or whatever it's the phrase. I'm sure you'll know, Jeff. And things did start to break down, and it ended up that we start to see these bars, and then we get this bar just bouncing off the daily pivot, and then we go, you know. So the market can look like it's going one way, but you've got to be, and it makes me think of The Gambler by Kenny Rogers, of the line that every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser, and it is that you think that you've got a direction and it can be valid, but then all in a heartbeat it turns around and actually you're looking in the opposite direction, which is really what your philosophy of trading is, Jeff, isn't it? You're trading the opposite what everybody else is thinking. Everybody's thinking, right, I'm going to go long. Jeff's putting an order in on the short because he knows if it turns around, it's going to go. So
well, I also know that if everybody goes to the one side of the boat's going to tip over, and it therefore comes back my way.
Yeah, which is interesting. The interesting thing about gold right now, I think, because everybody's long gold, and I wonder what that ends up giving us, because gold has, in some respects, started to also look like it could be in a potential shorting scenario. Now where is this? Looks like there's the line there, maybe. It's quite scruffy. I wouldn't trust that. This is what I mean about the trend line. And this is what I'm doing. I'm saying there's the high. There's one touch, nothing else. I can't really rely on that one. There's one touch, nothing else. Can't rely on that one. There's a touch. There's a touch. Not great there either, but looks like if I can tighten up to this one, then I've got a trend line that I can rely on a bit more. There's a touch there. Touch, 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 touch. So this trend line to me looks like the area. And you look at where the daily pivot is. If gold comes up in the next 4-hour period, this is a short. Whereas if gold breaks through, and you might go short there and it breaks through, and no big deal, right? Because then you're looking for the long. If gold breaks through there, it starts to change our opinion. Now that weekly pivot is going to be problematic, but it does start to suggest that if that was to happen, then you might well be looking at a long rather than a short. So every single market, most markets anyway, maybe not every single one. I think when Brexit was going on, there was only one. There was only one show in the town in town for which direction you should trade the pound in. But pretty much most markets have got people on both sides of the argument.
A case for and a case against, yes.
A case for and a case against, yeah. And you have to be really aware of what you're going to do. But and this is why we say the safest direction of travel is with the trend. That's the safest, because that has been happening. It's an accumulation over a period of time that states the direction of travel. So that's why we try and go with the safest, and then we try and get even safer by adding certain filters to see how strong that trend is. Like pivots bouncing in a certain direction, and super trend and cyclicity indicators and all this kind of thing. So yes, and you're right, Lewis. The euro and the pound are both weak. Yeah, I mean, there's no trade today. Anybody that's going to be trading today, you're going to be watching paint dry. It doesn't mean there's nothing to do, because there's always something to do with your with your development, but it doesn't mean that there's trading going on. And look, flickers, the odd flicker. There's nothing going
That's
on.
about it. No one's
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So if there's nothing going on with those guys, there's nothing going on with us either, right?
Absolutely. And I never would trade on a day like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, often I won't trade when there's a European or a pound holiday or a US holiday. But when they both coincide, no thanks. I don't want to be there.
Yeah. Well, this is the
and
thing.
that answers one of the questions as well. And we did answer it earlier. Crystal's question, if holiday in the country, how does that affect trading the currency on that day? Well, it has a massive effect because, as we said before, the institutional traders and those guys who turn up to banks and all sorts of institutions that actually sit at their desk and trade at 8 o'clock on Monday morning for in the what's the name of your country in Great Britain, right?
Yeah.
They're not there. So they're not there to place trades. And exactly the same thing will happen in the US session at 2:30 UK time. No one will turn up to trade because they're all having party time with Memorial Day. So how does that affect the market? Well, the volume's not there to start with. The volatility could be, but it will be unreliable volatility if there's such a thing. And the reason for that is, let's say we have a contract for, I don't know, we'll leave China out of this. We'll say that Australia's just found a new market for their barley, and China has put an 80% tariff on barley out of Australia. So India steps in and says, right, we'll take 95% of your barley at this price. And the barley people in Australia say, hell yes, let's do that. Transaction takes place and we don't know about it. Suddenly, there's a whole truckload of money just gone into the market buying Aussie dollars. Whoa, the Aussie just rallied for reasons we can't explain. And where there's normal volume and normal liquidity in the market, that wouldn't have anywhere near the effect that it would have. So those sorts of things can happen in an instant. And a punter might step up and, you know, he's got a spare billion or something. He might put it on, I don't know, Aussie Swissy or whatever the case may be. That's going to move it in a day like this. And we don't know about that, you know. So technically, we're at a massive disadvantage trading on a day such as this. That's my take on it anyway. Ash, you might have something to add to that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And the I mean, you can see it really with the price action. You know, this is the pound dollar. That's nothing doing there.
Beautiful range.
Yeah. There's the pound Aussie, the pound, you know, and it's, you know, it's not that you may, because something could happen, but you know, when we think about yes, Memorial Day, you're right, Ahmed, the Aussie dollar is in a range and going down. Let's have a look at the Aussie dollar. Emmanuel was in this last week, wasn't he? And a couple of weeks ago. Memorial's barbecue day. Yeah. Every day's got to be barbecue day, really. Oh, yeah, that doesn't. You see, there is a Head and Shoulders there. And that does look a bit weak. So Roy's asking about.
Where do you enter on that chart? Where do you enter, guys? If you entered today,
yeah,
you're trading straight into the weekly pivot untested.
Yeah.
Where's your stop loss? You know, it's just too hard.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the thing is, you know, somebody was saying about who just said, oh, Sino was saying about August and the second half of December are watching paint dry months, and they can be. And I got caught in a trade at the end of last year, and it was hideous because I did not want to. I didn't want to be in it, but I couldn't do anything about it because it just wasn't moving. and I had to sit and wait and wait and wait, and I was waiting for something in the world to happen. And as you say, but do you know what? It's a weird thing actually, because December isn't always like that. I do remember being away the previous year, and I also had trades on, and I was at a friend's house, and I just happened to open up my trade up on my phone, and it was well and truly in the money, and so I had a long short on. And the short, I closed the short on, and then the next day I was in the money on the long, and it literally just bounced. I don't know what happened. I think it was some sort of I think it was when we had tension with the US and China, and this is really what Jeff's talking about. Things can happen at any time, any particular time, and I suppose the problem is if you are trading in these slow these traditionally slow months, and something does happen, because the volume isn't there, it can just move, and
Absolutely.
and without you even knowing why. So setups do become a little bit arbitrary. So you can't really do a whole bunch on days like today. So
So
almost
it'll
better
either
off
go
just
absolutely nowhere.
yeah,
You'll see it tick every hour,
yeah,
or it will move dramatically and unpredictably.
yeah, and you won't have time to get in anyway.
No.
So yeah, you're better off waiting out. So we haven't got anything to do today. We're sort of like looking at tomorrow. Definitely the best day to do some work on other aspects of trading, or just have the day off.
And I've got to
There's
tell you, that setup right there is just straight out of my little textbook that I'll write one day.
oh, yeah, you like that?
3 candles back, that's perfect. Perfect
Yeah,
short.
yeah, yes, it is.
The
Yeah,
weekly pivot sitting there. That's what I said. Where are you going? How are you going to enter that?
yeah. Oh yeah, that is a tricky one to enter, isn't it? And let's have a look. So Roy was just talking about, and this is another interesting one, isn't it? Because actually, when you look at this on a daily, it's just a pullback. It's just a pullback, It's a pullback to the weekly pivot, and then you're off again, really. So I think Emmanuel was in on this bar, which has worked out to be okay so far. I don't know how much room the
Yeah,
Aussie's
that
got
looks
left
like
to
a
go.
wave rider trade, isn't it? Yeah, it would
Yes,
be.
it was. Yeah, yeah, there was a wave rider trade right there, and he's done the right thing. And I
And
don't
there'd
think
be
he's in the
another
room.
one on the first day of last week. As the
Yes, there
white,
would. Yes,
what are you
yes.
going to do?
No, there wouldn't be, mate. No, you couldn't take that one
Couldn't
because
take that one.
no, because this is stepped down.
Oh, okay, right. I don't
Yes.
understand that sort of parlance.
um. So, as what AW Roy like to say, play golf. Yeah, it is a play golf day, exactly.
Hell yes.
Um. Now,
The
yeah,
pub
just on
closed.
the
Oh, you can't go to the pub yet, can you? No.
no, not yet. Actually, you can go. Yes, you can round here.
Can you?
Yeah, because they've got because the bars are open on the beach. You can go up, and the bars are sort of like basically just a bar, just a face. That's all it is, just a face, and you can go in and go and get a beer and go and sit out on the beach with your beers.
Oh my goodness.
Everything's
No
changing,
one.
mate. And you know what? It's really interesting
No wonder
because
there's a bad count in UK. Dear, oh dear.
yeah, yeah. Well, do you know what? We've been talking about it because it was my daughter's birthday over the weekend, and my girlfriend's brother wanted to come down, and she was like, "No, there's no way. I'm having them come in here or whatever."
Yeah,
And I
good
said
on
to
her.
her, "Look, you know what? It's too late. We're done because the government has now decided." That we are all now to be affected by this because as soon as they've opened the beaches and the bars, that means that everybody has got the likelihood of being in contact with everybody because by the time you get to the supermarket, the person that's working behind that supermarket, the supermarket teller would have been in contact with somebody that's been at the beach, that's been in contact with another 100 people, that's been in contact with another 100 people, and it goes. So it's finished. Our lockdown, forget it. There's no protecting yourself now because the government has decided that everybody, that certain parts of society can work again, but it doesn't work like that. I just think that when certain parts of society opens, it all opens, and really what it will come down to, what they're trying to do, and what they said right from the gun, is that they're not that worried anymore about. And it sounds callous, but this is what I think is the case. They're not as worried. In fact, maybe they're not. It's not that they're not that worried. Of course, they don't want people to die, but they're more concerned with the economy than they are people living. Um, And
yeah, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that just
yeah,
wonderful?
but you see, the thing with that is that what they need to be able to know is not that people aren't going to die, but that the NHS can house the people that are sick. So as long as they don't have 451
And that's
cases
why it
instead
has
of
to be done in stages. Yes, totally get
yes,
that.
yeah, instead of
And that
instead
was
of
always
400,
going to be the case, and that's why they did it in the first place,
yes,
so
it
they
is,
can
mate.
actually prepare themselves, so they can wean it out, if you like.
Yes, yes, yeah,
And
because
without a vaccine, that's the only way you can do it, because you can't
that is
stay
the
in
only way.
lockdown forever.
That's right. Well, what our government always said from the get-go was that there would be herd immunity. That's what they're hoping for, herd immunity, and I suppose that's what they're now going through with it. They're the steps we're taking. But the thing with it is that the argument against people, dying because of getting coronavirus, or the economy shutting down, keeping everybody safe, the economy shutting down, and then people potentially dying because of mental health or poverty. Where do you stand on that? Where do you end up on that side of the argument? And that's where it becomes difficult. So even though I think it sounds callous that they're opening opening everything up for the economy, there are other sort of aspects of the economy that are actually really important to people's lives, aside from just making money. People have to get their mentality back in shape.
You would like to think so, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there probably are. I can't just kind of like tarnish them all with the same brush. I think there probably are ministers out there that understand
mate, I
that.
wouldn't like to be them. I'll put it that way. I wouldn't
Yeah,
like to be in their boots trying to make those decisions.
yeah. But anyway, mate,
Horrible.
we've started anyway. The whole thing has started. We're opening back up again, so it's done. I think we are done. The trying to keep yourself safe now is over. So I'm quite out for having a party. So anyway, he wasn't allowed to come. I got overruled on it, and as I should, and we're kind of back now down to trying to social distance ourselves from people. But we went to the beach yesterday for our daily walk, and it was packed.
Yep.
Packed. There was no 2 meter chat, distancing going on. Everybody that we passed, was brushing right past us. So there's no way to keep yourself safe in this country now. I don't think anyway.
Well, let's hope it's not as severe as it could be.
Yeah. This is the thing. I mean, it's the vulnerable people that I worry about, and I worried about them on two levels, because the first thing is that they haven't seen anybody for the last 2 months. They're so scared that they are locking themselves in. Everybody is basically sort of like going out and starting to enjoy themselves, and they can't even do that. They can't even kind of go and breathe the air again and go and start sort of like seeing their friends again or family that keep them not feeling lonely. Keep them from feeling lonely and actually sort of like hurting their mental state. And this is where it becomes just a really difficult question. The whole thing becomes a really difficult question. It's kind of all right for the likes of me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I may well be as susceptible as the next man, but I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm in that vulnerable
You're very
category.
unlikely to have a. I was going to say die. I might as well say die. You're unlikely to die from it.
I would have thought so.
In
I would
your
have thought
particular
so.
circumstance, yes.
Yeah, and this, but the vulnerable people, I feel very very sorry for, because that they are more likely to die, and of course they're scared, and of course they've got this big question about what do they do. As I say, that they're all alone, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's literally they're just there kind of waiting really, which is awful. Anyway, so let's get on to sort of stuff which is a bit more uplifting. Second wave is so LT, the engulfing. What were we looking for with engulfing? I'm not sure what that related to. Sorry, mate.
Maybe it's the question above from Shukri. Yesterday, I listened to Julian is waiting for the NASDAQ should turn down. What kind of reversal patterns do we look for in the index?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is a great question. And let me show you something about bars. Now you're going to go very you won't go far wrong. Now I'm hoping that this looks the same as the futures. You can't go far wrong looking for a high test or a hammer. Look at these. I mean, it's a shame actually they don't look the same, which is it's a shame that they don't quite look the same. They're close enough. High test hammer or engulfing, I think would be pretty good. So let's look at some of the turns in this. Now this is the FTSE. Now the FTSE will be similar in its dynamic to the Nasdaq because they are both indices, and indices that they do start to look fairly similar to each other. But look at some of these bars. Now this first one is an engulfing bar here. Whoops, that was badly drawn. Let me get rid of that. Let's go back here. That one there. That's the first one. Engulfing bar and a high test, if you like. If you want to call it a high test or a shooting star. It's not quite a shooting star, but that is so strong bars is what we're looking for. Strong bar downside. And look what it created. Downdraft, downdraft, downdraft. Strong bar upside. Up. That bar and that bar. Both really strong bars. Strong bar upside. Strong bar upside. No hint over here. I don't think there was any hint over there what was really going to happen. But by the time this bar had happened, it was too late. So there was no hint there. But just looking on this chart for the majority of May, every single time it turned, there was a really strong signal that it was going to turn. And if you'd taken every single one of those bars, now we might have to forget about risk to reward to a degree, but just taking what it ended up resulting in, 80 pips to the downside, from the low of that bar. If you got in when the bar had closed, then you're looking at near 100 pips to the downside. When this bar had closed, 100 pips to the upside. This one closed 130 pips to the downside. This one closed currently at 65 pips to the upside. This one, obviously, pick your poison, 350 pips to the upside. So you're looking for a strong bar. Now, this is on a 4-hour chart. So, you wouldn't want to go anything less than a 4-hour chart, depending. Now, the time frame of the bar is always dependent on how strong the trend is. So what time frame is the trend on? Because if it's on if you got a trend on a 15-minute chart and it's just a retest of an area on an hourly, then obviously you're looking for a strong bar on a 15. But with this 4-hourly, you can see where this flips around. This needed a strong bar to stop the heavy selling. It got one, and then it started to move to the upside. And it moves to the upside again, retests a level, another really strong indication that the sellers are kicking in here again, and it starts to fall down again. And then we get this here. So another test of this level with a strong bar to suggest the buyers are coming back up again, and we start moving higher again. So, what I'd be looking for here is some strong indication that it's stopping here. Otherwise, there's every chance it goes to this point again. So with a Nasdaq, we'd need to see something similar. I mean, what we got here? I mean, that bar's fairly strong. That's an engulfing bar there. We got a fairly strong bar there, and it did create some downside. Looks very similar actually to the FTSE. This bar's not that strong as a doji, but what it is telling us is that there's a potential for a reversal here. And it is on a support line, and then we get the kick up. So we'd be looking for something similar, just a bar that would really suggest that there is a hold. And you can trade all these things in two different ways. If you start to see an area which is holding like this, and you're at a support or resistance level, you can take a punt. or you wait for a really strong signal and then you can have a bit more confidence and kind of go in a bit heavier. So I think with the Nasdaq, we're really waiting for a strong signal that this is changing. This is the daily. This is the daily, and again, you look at this on the daily, and what do we have? Every time it's kind of come down, there's a hammer there or a low test bar there, takes us back to the upside. This is a belt hold down here. This bar here is a belt hold, takes us back to the upside. So this one not so strong. So there wouldn't have been a decent case to be made there, but definitely there and definitely there. So you're looking for something similar in the opposite direction, really. Some sort of engulfing bar or hammer, oh sorry, shooting star or high test bar, I think you guys call it, would do. What am I doing here? What I want is this. Look at that. That's an engulfing bar, and it engulfs all this range here. So you're looking for some strength, and it's in relation to what the price actions, what price action you have at the time. It doesn't have to be a huge bar. It's just got to be in relation to what the current move was. So a bar that looks like this would be just as good a signal as a bar that looks like that. What happened here? So I've done that the wrong way around the second time. Just as good signal as a bar that looks like this. So the size of it won't be the significant factor. Is my point. The most important thing is going to be the fact that it looks right. It looks like it's taken out some price action. Taking out all these lows would be really good. That'd be a really strong signal for the Nasdaq. Okay, mate. Well, I don't really have too much else I can offer here, mate.
Mate, you've done well. You've done really well. I'll answer in my little way of trading this Nasdaq. Not that it's the Nasdaq specific, but in terms of reversal. When you're done. So if you're done, I will do that. And
yeah, all done, mate.
Very, very quickly go around the grounds. I'm not going to give you anything to trade. I'm just going to give you my my outlook for the week, basically, because I'm not trading today, as I said, full stop, just won't, no matter what I see. And I want to point you guys to Shukri, who came up with this trade on Thursday when we were looking at, was it the hourly chart? I think it was the hourly chart. Yes, it was. Okay. On dollar CAD. And that's where I'm at, right? Dollar CAD. So this should answer, for me, the way you should be looking at the Nasdaq. Not that we're at the highs, because we're at the lows. But here's what happened. Double bottom, sitting on a support level, which is the bottom of this range. If you go a little bit wider, you can see how strong that level is. And then he saw exactly what we trade every single day of the week. So I'm actually trading reversals every single day of the week, believe it or not. They're just in mini form. I'm trading a reversal of this move. So I've got a double bottom, and the very next thing I look for is a higher low. And here is our higher lows area. But what have I told you guys? Don't look for a white candle, a white bodied candle. Look for a black bodied candle. That's your signal. That's the one you want to trade. Because the whole market, and we spoke about it before, the whole market is looking for that as a bullish bar. And look what happened. They got taken in and they got wiped out if they traded that bullish bar.
Is it important to have that bullish bar before you see the black bar?
No,
So why would the previous black bar not be relevant?
this one here,
Yeah.
it's not quite significant enough, but you could certainly trade it.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have any problem with trading that. And you wouldn't have been taken in until this one got taken in anyway.
Yeah.
So you could trade that bar, no problem. But the more you come down, the better it is, the better the signal is, until you hit these lows. So the closer you get to these lows, the better it is. And when you see a bar like that, absolutely go for it. And I can show you that on, this is exactly what we traded on, was it Pound Aussie? I think it was Pound Aussie. On the weekly chart? Yes, it was. Remember, we saw this massive, and I said it at the time, I haven't seen one that big for so long, that this tweezer top sitting here on the weekly chart was just amazing. And yet we kept rallying and rallying and rallying and rallying until on, was it the daily chart? I can't remember. It was the daily chart or the 4-hour chart. The daily chart. We got that bar. A white bar with a high test tail. And that's exactly what we traded. And then we picked it up again here. And then we picked it up again here. Gee, we had a good run on that. That was a really good 1,560 pips, I think we got out of that.
Beautiful.
So that was, yeah. So that's the sort of thing that can happen if you pick up these reversals. But that was a massive signal. You know, that's if you're not looking at that thinking that this is going down, you should be. That really is a massive signal. And it was on the daily chart. It was on the weekly chart. And that's really all I look for if I'm looking to trade a reversal. A chart pattern, in this case, big tweezer top, and then a lower high. And you picked it beautifully, Shukri, on dollar CAD. And I was so pleased when I saw you, when I wasn't even looking at this chart, and you pointed out and we took the trade, and happy days, bang, straight to the monthly pivot. So just keep looking for stuff like that. That works perfectly.
Yeah.
Do I consider the last low as a lower high on dollar CAD, Lewis? This one? A lower high? This one? This bar here? Is that the one you're talking about? Yes, I do. If that is the one. Would I trade it? No. Because it is the Monday of a bank holiday in London and New York, and I will not trade, full stop. Don't care how it looks. I won't trade it. Is that the one you mean, Lewis? The next after the double bottom. Lower high. Oh, sorry, higher low. The next after the double bottom. This one? The white body candle, is that the one you're talking about? Yes. No, because it's a white body candle. Everyone else is thinking long at that point. I don't want to think long at that point. I want to think long at this point. If I miss it, I miss it. I haven't got a big problem with that. But don't forget that we've also got a thing called a neckline. Now, it doesn't only happen on head and shoulders or inverted head and shoulders. It also happens on double bottoms, on tweezer tops, and all the rest of it. So once we hit that, come back off it, that's what we're looking for. That's where we get our what I call significant higher lows from. And we're trading straight into it. I know there's a lot of room here if you're trading that bar, and really on a hourly chart, you should be taking profit there anyway. So it would have been a profitable trade, or should have been a profitable trade. So yes, you could have got in on that, but that's not me. This one's me, this one with the black body. And the reason is it's insurance. Because if the bears are actually wrestling control back here, then the market's going here. and we haven't got a problem. But if they haven't, as this candle would suggest with the low test bar, and they come back to the top of this candle, the extreme likelihood is, in my opinion, that we're going to keep going. We're going through this bar, and we're going to take on the highs. And in this case, we went through it, retested it, and away we go. There's another one that would have been tradable as well. In fact, that's probably better because it's broken the neckline and it's come back and retested it. But either one, absolutely plumb. And I hope that makes sense, because that's exactly the way that I pick these bounces off the top and bottom of these ranges. And it essentially is a reversal. We're trading reversals every single day. But we have to have two things. I have to have two things going for me. I have to have that double bottom at the right place in context, at a confluence area, if you like. And then I have to have the significant higher low. And I say significant higher low because to me, this is not significant. We've had a little bit of a tay-to-tay, I suppose. We've had a little bit of a rally, then a small retracement. This is what we want to see. We want to see something that hits resistance and comes back off it, because that then produces a significant lower high or higher low, depending on which way you're going. So to me, that's the place you want to try. Not this one, but both would have worked. Both would have worked. Absolutely. No drama. So I decided to do a very, very quick wrap around, right? We traded Kiwi dollar shorts on Thursday as well. Yes, it was Thursday. And you guys should have taken TP1 at the appropriate level. And if you haven't moved your stop, you'll still be in that trade. I'm out of the trade. That was a break-even trade for me. Dollar CAD, as I said, was a winner. What am I doing with Kiwi? I'm still in it on the weekly chart, right? Remember, we traded this on the weekly chart 3-4 weeks ago, and we got triggered. We hit our TP1, but we've had nothing but disappointment. Yes, disappointment since. But we're still in the trade. And if you're still in that trade, I still see that there's nothing to do. We just wait until it hits the stop loss or takes us back into profit zone. Dollar yen, really keen to get short that. Love that bar. Love that bar right there. That goes exactly to what I've just been speaking about. Very rough in terms of a reversal pattern, because I don't see a bearish engulfing bar. I see an inverted hammer, maybe, if you want to stretch the friendship. I see a lower high, most definitely. I see an equal low, but that's the candle that I'm interested in. I like the fact that it has crossed all three pivots right now. So there is a potential entry there short for me. But because it is bank holiday, I keep saying it, in the UK and the US, I don't want to be part of it. If that's still like that tomorrow, then chances are I'll probably trade it, but not today. Don't want to. Aussie dollar, exactly the same. We spoke about this before. Great candle to trade. We're back inside the range. We've got a lower high that suits me. It's a white bar candle, but I'm trading straight into the weekly pivot, and it's a bank holiday where? Yes, UK and where's that other place? US. So I'm not interested. I just know from history and my experience that I just can't trade this day. It doesn't work for me. Never has. So look, I'm really not going through them. It's a waste of time me going through them. I'm just going to say I'm not going to trade it. I'm not going to trade it. I'm not going to trade it, no matter what the setup is. Okay, Crystal, CAD yen. This will be the last one I'll look at. CAD yen. Have I even got a chart here? How long since I've traded CAD yen? Quite a while by the look of it. There it is. Okay, so we've broken the market structure. We've put in an equal high over here. Maybe the market structure has changed to a rectangle. I think we had one there in the first place, actually. So let's see what the market structure is telling me. We're probably in here somewhere. bounced off the top. Let's say we've bounced off the top. We've hit the monthly pivot. That would be the monthly pivot and the weekly pivot. So I'd be looking for a lower high here, Crystal. That would be the first thing I'd be looking for. Is that going to be tough? Well, today it is because I'm not interested, but maybe tomorrow, if I see that lower high sitting there, then yeah, sure, why not? The other thing I'd like to see is price get back into the triangle, then retest the hypotenuse from the low side. That would be a short signal also, but I'm certainly not keen today, no matter what. Oil still weak and Japan in recession. That will be the first of many countries that will, in fact, we'll all go into recession. I've got no doubt about that. Although there are signs that there's a recovery on the way. I don't know. Ash, you're better equipped to answer that for me. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, mate. There are signs that there's a recovery on the way. Strange one, really, because it's still kind of buoyed up on what is very kind of weak debt. It's just debt, isn't it? There's just a huge kind of vacuum of debt going on, which it does actually make the other commodities, that the likes of gold and cryptocurrencies, a really, really interesting field right now. And I wish I'd kind of got my education on cryptocurrencies a little bit earlier in the picture, because I'm learning about them more and more now.
Like 5 years ago, and
yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't have minded that. At all. But I am learning about them more and more, and they are fascinating. But I think the big issue for me with cryptocurrencies is that in the same way, in some respects, that we've had governments, figuring out what they were going to do with this pandemic, after a complete lack of preparation. I think the first run in those cryptocurrencies was the most interesting, and that they concern me now. Everybody's looking at them, or a lot of the crypto bugs anyway, are looking at cryptocurrencies as the reserve currency. There was one person talking yesterday about it being the reserve currency by the end of this year. But my issue with the cryptocurrency space
hang on. Can we trade that?
What crypto? They were talking about?
Is offering odds on that? Can I have a piece of him?
Well, I mean, he's put his money where his mouth is. He's bought a load of Bitcoin, and that's his play.
Yeah, kind of. That's not quite putting his money where his mouth is.
Well, not saying against somebody else, but well, apart from the other people on the other side of the argument, I guess. But
hang on. I said if the Aussie dollar rallies substantially this month, right? That
the dollar.
What did I say?
The US dollar.
Isn't that what you said?
No, you said the Aussie dollar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. The US dollar, if the US dollar appreciates substantially this month, the month of May,
yeah,
I would become a seasonal trader. No,
yes.
Not quite that. I would take notice of seasonality,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly the same would apply in this case, because I think there's as much chance. No, in fact, there's less chance, far less chance of Bitcoin being. In fact, there's no chance of Bitcoin being. Come on, that's just a ridiculous statement. It's not going to.
Well, the interesting thing when you listen to any of these guys is that you realize that they've got so much money banked in that stuff, that part of it is hopium and part of it is trying to convince everybody else, so everybody else goes out and buys it, so the actual instrument that they're trading is going to appreciate. But my personal thoughts on Bitcoin is that central banks have now got the hop on it, and they've had plenty of time to start preparing, and they are all putting their own digital currencies in place. So I'll be very surprised.
Who saw that coming?
Yeah, well, absolutely, yeah. But the will there be one that is unregulated that's out there, or will central banks effectively gain control of this space? And of course the latter is the one. So but back to the point this rally that we're seeing and any kind of recovery that we are seeing, it really is based on a lot of debt. And I can only see one place to really put your money when this sort of thing happens, and that's in gold. I mean, I get the cryptocurrency argument to a degree, but what they are basically saying is that it will supersede the old stalwart of all this, which is gold. So when it comes down to any monetary system that gets broken, everybody buys gold. That's the way it's always been, right the way back to the Roman era. So
look, I've got very little doubt we're on the brink of massive change, and currencies won't look like they did. In 2 or 3, maybe even 2 years' time, they won't look like they do today. I've got no doubt about that. But what it does look like, it ain't going to be Bitcoin.
No, I agree, mate. I agree. I mean, that's my thinking too. That's my thinking too. I think there's probably there's a lot of people that are trying to get on board with that, and who knows, mate? Maybe we're dinosaurs. Who knows? But when I kind of look at the market and what happens historically, it always switches back to gold, and I don't see why that would change now, really. So I think that we need to try and get on board at some point with gold, but now's not the time. Whenever there's all this stuff going on, there generally is a bit more time than you think. So let's see if we can get a little bit more of a dip in gold, and then go and fill our pockets a little bit with some. And maybe we'll get some Bitcoin as well, mate. Who knows? We'll start looking at it and see what happens.
Bamboo's the new currency, mate, and it takes over. I might as well say that as Bitcoin. Really, I've got more faith in Bamboo than I do in Bitcoin.
yeah.
Obviously, because I just poured shitloads of money into it.
Yeah.
SH1T loads.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, let's wrap it up, because we're going to be back for the US show. We are still doing the US show later on, and we'll have maybe further discussions. Have a great rest of the day, guys. And for those of you that are around for the US show, we'll see you then. For the rest of you, we'll be back to proper trading tomorrow, and no doubt we'll find some opportunities. So see you tomorrow, 5 to 8.
That's a date. Don't be late.